In high school, Alonzo Highsmith was one of the top defensive players in the nation. But when Highsmith arrived at the University of Miami, head coach Howard Schnellenberger had other plans for his prize recruit.
He was a fine defensive football player for Christopher Columbus High School and won all-state honors at that position. And it took me a long time to convince him that he could make a major contribution to our football team at the fullback position. I remember that the first time I suggested it to him, he said no, he was a defensive player. The second time I suggested it to him, he said he would prefer to play defense, and he thought he could do a lot for us at defense. But finally, when I said to him, Alonzo, by playing fullback, you would help this football team a great deal. And his answer then was, well, Coach, if it's going to help the football team, that's what I want to do.
Whoa! Right up the gut. Alonzo Highsmith, the freshman from Miami, goes for 18 yards. And yet
Highsmith rushed for a team-high 50 yards in Miami's national championship victory over Nebraska, the beginning of what would be a great Hurricanes career.
Welcome to the PlayCallers podcast, discussing current sports news and headlines behind the scenes of athletics and life after sports. We talk about the real stuff of the sports world, and anything goes. Are you ready? Let me introduce former NFL coach Kirk Broussard, former CFL coach and pro coach Chris Williams, and myself, Tracy Lynn. You can find us on Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, and wherever you get your podcasts on all major platforms. Good evening, everybody. This is the PlayCallers pod. Welcome to another episode with the best people ever on our panel. As always, we have Coach Kirk Broussard. We have Coach Chris Williams and myself, Tracy Lynn. And we have a very special guest joining us tonight, Alonzo Highsmith. I don't even know how to introduce you. You're just incredible. You're an executive. You're a former fullback, former boxer. You're now a personnel executive for the Seattle Seahawks. We're so excited to have you join us, especially after Thanksgiving weekend. I hope everyone had a great weekend with your families.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun.
Good. Yeah. Well, we're going to throw it out to Coach Williams. The floor is yours.
All right. Well, Alonzo, we were talking a little bit before we got started about how, we've kind of crossed paths through my background with the CFL and the Arena League. But, my main question to you is, and I remember times where we would, through some of these other guys that we both know, we would send you guys to work out. And I still have a following of guys that still keep up with me from the CFL and the Arena Leagues. When an NFL team is looking for a guy that comes from those lower levels, what is it that you guys are looking for in those guys as far as performance, and what are you guys looking for a guy to truly get a chance when it comes to the NFL?
I mean, our business is strictly based on athleticism. When you're coming out of hard circumstances from a Arena Football League team or street free agent, you're going to have to impress immediately. And the quickest way to impress is to be a big, fast player, because everyone's looking for big, because, big don't get bigger and small don't get big. You know what I mean? You're always looking. Yeah. It's a big man's game in NFL. It always has. And those who aren't big have a dynamic skill set. And I've always told kids coming in, you're a skill position level, you can't come in running 4.6 and 4.7s. You need to come in running 4.4s and 4.3s to get people to look at you, and that's just a fact. That doesn't mean you can't play football if you're not those type of speeds. But if you really want an opportunity and have a chance to show who you are as an athlete and get in camp, you have to differentiate yourself from others. You can't run 4.61, 4.65 because those guys come a dime a dozen, and we're looking for that unique athlete.
That makes a lot of sense to me. I mean, when we were always talking to those kids, we tell them, if you get lucky enough to get a workout, you got to make a statement. And some of those guys would come back and, they would tell us they ran 4.8 and they were a running back. And we would tell them, that's probably not going to cut the mustard. I mean, if you're not ready for one of those things, I mean, it's just going to be one day and out. So, that's the message we would try to give. But I would also ask you if over all your years, have you ever seen one? And you don't have to mention any names, but does one come to mind that you've ever seen at a workout or a street free agent guy that you ever passed across in your lifetime?
Oh, yeah, Tremone Williams.
Okay.
Tremone Williams was a street free agent. Loved him in college. Couldn't get the coaches on board to like him.
Mm-hmm.
And he was out on the street, nowhere. And I have a great trust in Elliott Wolf, and we've been best friends in this business for a long time. And I always feel bad for Elliott Wolf because he's an old soul because all his friends are in their 50s, and he's been in his 30s, late 20s, and all he hangs around is a bunch of old guys. And but I told Elliott about this kid at La Tech, Tremone Williams, and I said, keep an eye on him, keep an eye on him, keep an eye on him. And finally, Elliott brought him in. And the rest is history. 14 years in NFL.
Wow.
Made over $70 million in his career. And another guy, if you come to think of my mind, is Chris Banjo. Chris Banjo was at a workout, just standing by a goalpost, and he ran a 40 for me. I told Elliott about it. And we flew him in, made our team, and contributed. He's still playing NFL now. So, that's the fun part about this business. And, you wish you had more stories like that, but it's just they don't come around very often.
Yeah, you're right about that. Now when we and I know I said I was only going to ask two questions, but I'm going to add in this one. When we would recruit guys, and say kids played at University of Miami, Alabama, and we had a bunch of those guys that would come through the arena leagues, and but we would always tell them, you gotta still play. I mean, especially if they were friends, guys that maybe had been in the camp, made it some way during camp, and we would tell them you gotta keep playing. And I guess I would ask you now that I have you, were we telling them the right thing? I mean, is playing even though it's arena?
Yep, you have to keep playing. An artist doesn't get better when he stops painting and stops drawing.
Mm-hmm.
A golfer doesn't get better when he stops hitting the golf ball. If you want to, whatever endeavor you do in your life, you must continue it. And it doesn't matter what level. You only get better through practice and continuing where you left off. That's how you get better, and that's how you create an opportunity for yourself. You just sit home and work out. Sorry about that, but if you're just at home sitting around doing nothing, you can't get better, and people need to see you. You can get better in the XFL. You can get better in the Arena League, but you can't get better not playing.
That's right. Exactly. That's we used to try to sell kids on that all the time. Now, and I guess, and I know this is my last question, but now, so how long would you say? Let's just say a guy's coming out of college. He's 22 years old. I mean, where is that threshold where that guy is, even though he's continuing to play? When does he start to see, hey, it's time to move on to my real life?
You know what? And I say this to young players all the time. I don't want anyone to ever give up their dream.
Mm-hmm.
But after 2 or 3 years after college, you're still chasing that dream. You're still in the weight room over there, and you're not getting an opportunity. The biggest problem you have in life is when you do that, you set yourself back too far. Mm-hmm. Now you're playing catch up with everyone who's been in the real world since they were 21 years old. You're 25. You've been chasing this dream to play football. I told my son the hardest thing in the world is to tell your son he's not good enough. My son played at Miami, graduated, got his master's, went to a rookie, had his pro day, and you're driving in the car with your son, and he makes it easy for you because he says to me, Dad, if I don't get a free agent tryout, I'm done.
Mm-hmm.
And I was proud of him for that. And he started in the scouting business about 6-7 years ago, right after college. Didn't waste his time trying to play pro football. Now he's got a career. And I tell all young men, it's all right to keep chasing your dream, but also develop your career. Finish school. If you have to go to night school, go to night school. You have online classes. You can do real estate. There's so many different things you can do. But to just do nothing and train for football, and you're not getting the opportunity, you're not getting the looks you want. You know, I say this to Don King told me something I always remember, and I tell young men, never do something for nothing. You know what I mean? If you're going to spend your time out there and spin your wheels, make sure it's gratifying, you get something out of it. You know what I mean? And sometimes when you start it, whatever endeavor you do in life, you're going to have to start at the bottom. Whether you're going to be a CEO, whether you're going to be an entertainer, a professional athlete, you have to start somewhere. So don't be scared to start, but also realize when you're chasing that dream in football careers are short. The average pro player plays 3 years. If you had told me when I started playing pro football I wasn't going to be in the Hall of Fame and then out of the league after 6 years, I'd have bet everything on it. I didn't think I could get hurt. But it happens, and it happens to better players than me. So, you know, I had a goal in my mind. I had some things I wanted to do, and I was fortunate.
Man, that's big time information, Alonzo. I'm telling you. I mean, if anybody that's listening, these young guys still chasing the dream, and that's coming from a guy that knows what this is, an NFL guy with a background playing and scouting. I mean, this guy knows what it's about. So, backup plans. What I just heard him say was, we want to have a good backup plan on top of still chasing the dream. So, thank you for saying that.
Well, I knew an arena league player that played arena football. Worked in as soon as the football game was over, right? He went to work.
Yeah,
he had a job, and you know what? If you're gonna chase that dream, it costs money, so you got to work.
Exactly right.
You have to work.
Yeah. So many guys don't want to hear that truth, man. I'm telling you, but that's real talk, 100%. Well, I'm not gonna hog it up, Coach. I mean, I'm asking more than my limit, but what you got?
It's all good. It's all good. Alonzo, Coach Kirk Broussard has some questions for you as well, but I just want to say, I love that you're a realist. You put things into perspective and you keep it real, and you are so empowering. So thank you for everything. We're going to pass the panel over to Coach Broussard.
No, that's great information. Because a lot of guys are in that gray area and they don't understand, they don't know how long they should stay in, arena league. They don't know really when to give it up or when to, come to that realization that they need to move on. So this is great information for a lot of
them. Well, I always tell guys this: the funniest thing about playing football and meeting so many people in life through football, very wealthy people, owners of NFL teams. You know what's weird? None of them ever played football. Shoot, I need to get on that program. You know what I mean? Because my shoulders hurt, my elbow hurts. Every day I try and work out, I hurt something new. And I'm looking at this guy over here who's worth millions and millions of dollars, never got hit. And I'm like, you know what? That's the way to go. Tell me what to do to get there. So, it's all, you put everything in perspective in life. And, as you go through life, you learn. And by, people have developed opportunities in something they never thought they would do. But by expanding their horizon and reaching out, and I had a friend who went into the garbage business. He never knew anything about garbage. Now he owns one of the largest pickup garbages places in Miami. Wow. Disposal service that come in. Dude, he had a degree in finance. He didn't know nothing about this business, that kind of stuff. So, as long as you're educating yourself, the limits, everything's unlimited in life. And I've always told this to young men. There's only one thing that separates people in life, and that's education. and we're trying to get all these programs, and we're trying to just educate people. If people are educated people make better decisions than uneducated people. Exactly. And more doors are open for you in life with your education. And I tell all young men, black, white, Spanish, the only thing that separates me and you in life will be our education. If we've got the same education, we might not start out on the same path, but because of my education, we're going to meet up with each other one day in the world, in whatever endeavor we do. And I tell young players, get your education. Don't And, you know, we used to talk about this in Miami. The funniest thing about Miami, people didn't understand, I'm going to say 90-something% of the players I played with graduated.
Wow.
And here's the funny thing. The school didn't like Miami football players at the University of Miami. You better take your butt to class because nobody was coming to help you. You know what I mean? There was no class that said, hey, you're a football player. Come on in here and you're going to pass. We didn't have that. And we graduated from class. Jimmy Johnson told us one day, hey, boys, I can't help you with this school stuff. You want to stay here and play football, you better go to class.
Wow.
And I've always said this, don't let them use you. Yeah. When you leave college, you make sure you got everything you were supposed to get and then move on. I took every sweatsuit. I ate every meal 3 times a day. Yeah. I took extra. I went on every plane trip. I took every bowl. And I practiced to be a great football player every day because I wanted everything I was supposed to get from university. And I got my degree.
Nice.
Went to summer school every year because I didn't want to go home and mow the yard and all that kind of stuff. So I stayed in summer school all year. But that's the only where we will ever advance as a people is through education. And if football is anybody that can go to college and play football and get your degree, you'll kill the business world.
Nice.
Because it's a sacrifice. It's hard. Now, they don't ask regular students on scholarship to get out there and play on Saturdays and earn that scholarship. And if you're willing to put yourself through that, the real world's easy.
Yeah, exactly. Hey,
wow.
That's powerful information. You know, and I kind of went through something similar. Like I had a short time with the Buffalo Bills, and I know every day I used to sit with Terry Pagula, and that's who I ate lunch with. You know, so I would pick his mind. But it's exactly what you're saying. You meet so many powerful people in football that never played football, and it's something that's brilliant, man. It's something to be said about that. But my next question, what I really wanted to ask you was, you know, as a kid, I grew up in Florida, and my uncles initially were Hurricane fans. They really liked the Hurricanes, and they used to always talk about Howard Schnellenberger, how he would recruit players and he would stockpile players, is what they called it. So I guess he was famous for the whole redshirting thing. He would redshirt players, and then, you know, when their time came around and they were right, he had the most experienced team, most talented team. He was super successful. I don't think he gets the credit that he deserves, but I wanted to ask you, for your perspective, what was it like playing under Coach Howard Schnellenberger?
He gets not nearly a quarter of the credit he should for changing college football, you could say, in 1983.
Yeah.
When I came out of high school in 1983, I was the most highly recruited kid in the nation. Could have went anywhere. And but I will say this: the greatest thing that ever happened to Miami was University of Florida going on probation, because I think I was going to Florida. Jerome Brown was going to Florida. There was a bunch of us getting ready to go to Florida, and the dynamics would have changed. My recruiting class, Miami had a problem of keeping its best players in Miami at the University of Miami. And, you know, they didn't have the facility. They didn't play in a big stadium. I mean, they played in a big stadium, but they didn't have the following. And it was like lightning in a bottle for the aspect of, I was popular down south in Miami going to Columbus High School, and we went to the state championship. Melvin Bratton was from Northwestern High School. Brian Blades and all these guys were from Fort Lauderdale. They were the best at what they did. So for the first time, Howard told me, he said, Alonzo, if you come to Miami, we'll win several national championships.
Wow. And
I was like, really? And he said, and here's how we're going to do it. I'm going to keep this local kids. I'm going to create people like you, Melvin Bratton, you guys all going to come here. Because this was the first big recruiting class in 83 that people said, why are they going there to Miami?
Yeah.
You know, Texas A&M, some schools called my mom and they said he'll never play in a bowl game going to University of Miami.
Wow.
And You know, I was a linebacker. My heroes were Lawrence Taylor and Hugh Green. Mm-hmm. And, you know, player of the year in the state of Florida, All-American, all that stuff. I knew I was destined to be a great linebacker. And first day of practice, I didn't even get a day of practice on defense. I ran a 40. I was 230-something pounds, ran 4.5 flat, 4.4, something like that. Mm-hmm. And coach said, I want to try you at running back. Oh, I cried. I didn't want to do it. and here's the only reason why I did it. Besides having a good first scrimmage and I broke a long run, I said, okay, I might do it. But he said to me, Alonzo, if you play running back, you'll change the way we do things on offense and we'll challenge for national championships. Now, if you play defense, I think you'll be an All-American one day and all that kind of stuff. Mm-hmm. I grew up as a team player doing what's best for the team, and my dad was a high school coach, so I did it because Schnellenberger told me I would help the team. Mm-hmm. And that was Howard's approach. And the one thing that was unique about Howard is he wanted to get people on the skill set on the field as fast as they could. Mm-hmm. You know, he didn't want you to wait. If you're a defensive tackle and you could be a starting guard by the end of your freshman year, that's where you were going. Mm-hmm. And same with DBs and receivers and all that. And the other thing that he did was if you played for Howard Schnellenberger, you were going to be accountable. Mm-hmm. Not to yourself. You're going to be accountable to your teammates. Mm-hmm. And I'm going to push you further than you thought you could ever go. Mm-hmm. And when you don't think you can go anymore, that's when you lean on your teammates, and they're going to push you further because we're doing this as a team. And that was one of the greatest things I learned in this sport is sacrifice. I think in any endeavor you do as a husband or a father or teammate, you have to be willing to give more of yourself. People who are willing to give more of themselves to make the group successful. You know what I mean? Exactly. Sometimes as a father, you have to work 3 jobs to make this family go and to do the things you want for your wife and kids. Well, that's the sacrifice you make, giving more of yourself, unselfishness. Mm-hmm. And that's probably one of the biggest things I learned from Howard Schnellenberger, besides the work ethic that it took to play for him. When I played there was no water on the practice fields. There was never a day with less than 3.5-hour practices. Wow. Rain, snow, shine, it didn't matter with Howard. If you were going to play for him, you were going to practice at a certain level and you were going to play at a certain level, and everybody was held to that accountability. And that was the fascinating thing for me, because I think I hear a lot of this talk in sports about culture. I think culture, I think that's the most overrated thing I've ever heard. Culture is created by great players that win games. That's the culture. You can't take a team with no talent and say, oh, we're going to develop a great locker room and great all that kind of stuff, but you're still going to get your ass kicked. You got no players. Yeah. The Yankees didn't all like Reggie Jackson. It was hard to play for the Chicago Bulls. Yeah. You know what I mean? Exactly. Great players like being around great players. And when you're around great players and other great players, the coach sets a standard of how this team's supposed to perform, and we practice at a certain level every day. That's the culture. Yeah. So the cliche saying is, "Oh, we've got to create culture." You can't create culture without great players. Yeah. You can't. Mm-hmm. You can put all those nice guys together in a room, but if they can't play football, what does it mean?
Exactly.
That's right.
Yeah, that's great information. Just hearing that, it kind of seems like you were like that big domino, number 1 player in the nation, to kind of spearhead that whole Miami movement. Because, in today's world, you got Twitter and all the social media. Mm-hmm. It seems like when a number 1 recruit goes to a school, a lot of kids follow. Yeah. So, in a sense, kind of looking at it in that way, you being that number 1 recruit kind of spearheaded the whole Hurricane movement.
And it spearheaded it because we were winning. Yeah. And all of a sudden, it became cool to stay home. Yeah. You know what I mean? Then all of a sudden, the little guy, Miami is beating up on the big boys, and they're on national TV every week, and all these guys are local guys. So other kids started saying, I want to be like those guys. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
They're cool. They're cool. They're great athletes, and they win games. So that's where I want to be. And, you know, when we get a group of kids that are willing to sacrifice more and willing to pay the price, we'll win a national championship in Miami again. But it's a different culture now. It's more of a me society. I'm opting out because we're not winning games. I'm opting out because I'm going to be a first-round draft pick. You know, you know, it's hard for me to think about myself training all year round, training with my brothers to tell them I'm not playing. No, I couldn't do it.
Yeah.
Like, not even in my blood.
Yeah.
If I get hurt, I get hurt. I'm going down with the ship.
Yeah. We have a team sport that has become a me first sport. You're exactly right.
Yeah.
My next question I really wanted to ask you was, and we're kind of limited. We got about 9 more minutes here.
Okay.
I wanted to ask you, you know, from watching, you know, the world's kind of talking about Nate Robinson, you know, watching that transition that he attempted to make from basketball to boxing, you know, you kind of went through something similar.
Yeah.
But a lot of people don't really have the insight of how difficult that is.
Oh,
I see boxing train. It seems like a difficult sport to even train for.
Yeah. First of all, it's total disrespect if you think you can go be a doctor and read a book and perform surgery on somebody. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. It's disrespectful to watch Luther Vandross go up and sing, and you go sing in the bathtub and say, I'm a better singer than you. And it's disrespectful for me to be a great athlete and say, I can guard Michael Jordan. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And to train for 3 months and then get in the ring with someone who's been boxing, you got no chance.
Yeah.
You're going to get hurt. You seriously get hurt. You know, I trained for almost 2 years before my first pro fight. Every day, 7 days a week.
Wow.
Every day.
Good Lord.
I mean, I went from 8 in the morning, sometimes twice a day. I trained with world champions. I trained with real guys. I put the time in, and that was to be just an average fighter.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Exactly. That got me to beating people I'm supposed to beat.
Mm-hmm.
I saw guys train for 5 months, go in there, fight a bum and get knocked out.
Mm-hmm.
You know, this is, I mean, it's serious. If I was a pro football player, linebacker, and you came out there off the street and said, I can run you over, I'm going to try and take your head off. I'm going to make sure you never want to put football equipment on again.
Mm-hmm.
And that's, you know, that's like me saying I went to the driving range. I'm gonna go play against Tiger Woods now. Okay, stay in your lane. So you know, I just don't want to see somebody get hurt. You know what I mean? And Nate could have got hurt.
Yeah. I mean, I heard his interview. He talked about how, you know, he stayed at home. He would train in the mornings. He would come play with his kids, hang out with his wife, go train again in the evenings. You know, I felt like he should have went away from his family, somewhere remote, got the best boxing trainers, someone, first of all, to teach him defense, because he had no defense in that fight. It was a bad scene. He definitely could have got seriously hurt.
Could have got serious. You know, you really think, I remember when I was boxing, and I think I'm a pretty tough guy. And I used to train with Holyfield and his crew. And you think I want to get in the ring there and spar with Holyfield? I'm like, nah, let me get this other fighter over here before I get in there with him.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. You know, it's kind of like when you was a little kid and they was doing bull in the ring and tackling drills. There was one kid who was killing everyone he tackled. He kind of counted where he was. 1, 2, oh, he's 3. I'm 3. Let me get 4.
Yeah. Get
well, Alonzo, I want to talk about your growing up, your childhood. Mm-hmm. Your father, he played as well, CFL, Alouettes. He was an Argo.
Yep.
How great is that?
He played 13 years pro football, about 3 or 4 years in NFL, world football. He was a journeyman football player. And I was with him every step of the way growing up as a kid. I remember Johnny Rogers leaving me his Heisman Trophy when I was like sixth grade. Had it in my room because he was leaving town. He didn't want to put somewhere secure, so he left it with me. And I remember hanging out with my dad when he was with the World Football League with Larry Zonka and Warfield and kicking those guys. So I've been around this sport my whole life. I was a water boy for the Dolphins in high school because I played with Mike Shula in high school. So I got to be around the Dolphins all through high school. And my formative years of football was all in Canada. I moved to Canada when I was about 5 years old, and I left when I was about 15. Mm-hmm. And it's an interesting story because at one point my dad said, you got to get out of Canada. You got to go to the United States. And it's a weird story, but it's true. My parents didn't have enough money to move at that time, so they sent me by myself. Oh. And I lived by myself my first year in high school in the back of an efficiency apartment. No TV, just a stove fridge. Wow. Never missed a day of school. My high school teammates were nice to me. Someone invited me over for dinner. And it's always emotional for me thinking about that because here I am, 15-year-old from Canada, 16-year-old living by myself. Wow. Never missing a day of school, never missing anything. And it always, it's kind of like when we talk about sacrificing more for everyone else in the family. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And I wanted to be a Division I football player. And my first American college football game was University of Miami versus Florida, 72,000 people in the Orange Bowl. And Jim Kelly was the quarterback. And the final touchdown of the game was to Rocky Belk in the fourth quarter to win the game. I always remember that. Mm-hmm. And I had never heard of the University of Miami until I moved to Miami.
Wow.
My dad went to Florida A&M, so I heard of Florida A&M. Mm-hmm. I think I had heard of Florida, but I only knew USC, Ohio State, and those back in those days. And I'll never forget, my high school coach took us to the game, and I called my mother from a payphone. I said, Mom, I found what school I want to go to. I said, there's a team that runs out of the tunnel with smoke. Like, what? I said, yeah, they're called the Hurricanes, and they come out this tunnel. And I said, I'm going to run through that tunnel one day. And I remember doing push-ups, sit-ups, running, wanting to be the best football player. Gotcha. Sorry about that. Wanting to be the best football player in America. And people, when I had success in high school and I went to Miami, people just assumed I was an inner city kid from Miami, grew up in Miami. I said, and they found out, they were like, you're from Canada? I said, yeah. You've only been living in Miami for the last 2.5 years? I said, yeah. They were like, man, that's, and then my family moved down at the end of my junior year in high school. So, it was a unique story because the people in Canada always wondered what happened to one of the better football players in Canada. And they look up one day, they're watching Miami play in the Orange Bowl, and they see me score a touchdown. They're like, there he is.
There you are.
Yeah. So it was, and I tell young players all the time, it's just about what goals you set for your life and what you're willing to sacrifice. And if you're not willing to sacrifice much, don't expect much. And that's just life. And everything I do in this, I carry it to everything I went through in life to get where I am to this point. I live by those rules. I don't live by any football rules. I live by the rules of life. I live by the rules of how you treat your wife, how you treat your kids. And if you can do those things right, you'll be good to other people. And that's no doubt. That's pretty simple. I would treat you the same way I would treat my son and daughter. And that's it.
I could listen to you all day and all night. You are so inspiring and so motivational. I feel like I need to do something right now. I don't know what that thing is, but I feel like I do something.
No, you know what? I've been, God bless, been around great people my whole life. I've been around, some of my friends call me Forrest Gump because I'm always doing weird things and meeting people. They go, how'd you meet that guy? I'm like, I don't know. I was just standing in the store and we started talking. And You know, from the time I met Casey and the Sunshine Band when I was in like the 5th or 6th grade and brought them to my house, my mom was like, who are these hippies, whoever you're bringing? I said, there's some rock group called Casey and the Sunshine Band. They were lost. I was like, whatever. You know, so I've always kind of been like that in life. And it's just, I know a lot of people, a lot of friends, and, you know, I enjoy people.
You can find us on Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, and wherever you get your podcasts on all major platforms.